Welcome back to whoever may find this in the future, perhaps my future self. This is Lifter's Log 0430. It is 11:24 a.m. and I've just completed my first week of raw, I believe it's called, training. And not quite ready to give a final verdict on this yet, but raw training just may be fun. Day one this week, I started off with my competition raw squat. Not quite where I wanted for a single. Ended up being 265 kilos, and I was okay with that. Given the last block, pushed way too hard on my fives, was in a lot of pain. This is a good place to start. No pain, no shakiness, nice smooth squat, maybe a little bit undershot, but it felt really good. Finished it up with some volume on the comp squat, 3x3 at 245, and this felt really damn good. They all moved well, they all felt good, I felt confident under the weight, and getting up into that 240, 250 range for reps, that's usually where I get a little bit hesitant, especially given the previous history with a hip injury. My comp raw bench went pretty well that day. I'm doing a single at 8 and single at 9, both in the same day in this protocol. So I started with 167.5 and then 175, probably both pretty undershot, but it'll be interesting to push into those higher RPEs, because I've historically been terrible at grinding reps or having any really idea of where my top end is. So comp raw deadlift took a bit of a hit this week, which was intentional. I think a lot of people try to ride the wave of progression from their past block into this block without accounting for the fact that we need a little bit of room to grow. We need to maybe be a bit shy of the ceiling when we first started developmental block. So for me, dialed back to 317.5 for a double, moved really well, probably 7-8 RP, somewhere in that range, and gives me a good starting point. Things felt good, things moved well. I felt really proficient on my back off sets, 285 for 4 sets of 4, and was just really clicking, feeling mechanical, feeling natural with my deadlifts on that day. So that went really well. I was happy with that. Benched against bands, some sets of 6, and for me, I think the band thing, especially when we're focusing on raw lifting, these are the tiniest bands I've ever owned. Ironically, they're the only bands I have access to right now. It was just enough that it feels a tiny bit different. Great, good, move on, right? I think a lot of people get too wrapped up in how much band tension they should use, but does it feel a little bit different than comp bench? Yes? Okay, cool. Also moved on and did some split squats this day. Lots of sets here, but been doing split squats now for 5 or 6 weeks, and it's getting a little less daunting to throw them in at the end of a deadlift day, which is nice, mentally. My day 3, humbled by the raw. Bottom positions are just a thing that I've not trained in years because of all my equip lifting. So my pause squats, I was hoping to get up to 237.5 for a triple, got to 225, and whoo boy, felt it. That was enough for the day. I think the big thing here is I'm trying to be very consistent with not only my pause length, but my pause position, making sure I'm at sufficient depth. And I think it's really gonna benefit my squat overall, but it's certainly not something that I've trained. So definitely a lot of room to grow there. Next up was my close grip bench, and I'm toying with the idea of, maybe this is a viable competition grip. It's about 2 fingers more narrow than my current competition grip, but it felt really strong, and since the weight class change, there might be something there, so I'll continue to explore that. Seated overhead press as well on this day, and reps are down from 12s in past blocks to 8s this block, so looking forward to pushing a little bit more weight there. My day 4 is a little bit of a bro out session, only deadlifting once a week right now, which I really enjoy. I've seen success with it these last number of weeks, and I'm interested to continue to pursue that and see what a lower frequency on the deadlift would look like for me. I have a good feeling about it. So I started off with low lever rows, which I do perform more as a Meadows row than a lever row for anybody who's a little bit of a stickler for the exercise names. My next movement that day was the 5 count pause bench, and these were hellish. Again, something that I'm really excited about because I think there's a lot of room to grow on these, but not something I'm starting off very strong at. I had written down just sort of arbitrarily, okay, I think 155 for a triple should be about good. I got to 140 And that was definitely enough with a 5 count pause. Again, just not something I've trained very often, which is exciting because given training it, I think I can progress quite a bit on this and see a big increase throughout the course of this block. Finished my day up with some sort of modified inverted rows or fat man pull-ups, whatever you want to call them. I saw Bryce Lewis doing these. I really like the fact that it's kind of a marriage between a straight vertical and a straight horizontal pull. You can load them, and there's very minimal equipment necessary for them. So that was a good day, good way to finish the day, get a little bit of a bicep pump. Now, real quick, for anybody out there who has access to gym equipment, has a rack in their garage, and is still lacking motivation, this is a really weird ass time right now. And I think a lot of people are going through that. I think now is the time where if you have access to equipment, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be like, oh, you're so lucky, blah, blah, blah. But there are a lot of people who are really heavily influenced by the training environment of getting into a gym, all their boys or girls or whoever yelling and screaming at them, and that hype really helps build an environment that allows people or encourages people to excel. Now, if you're those kinds of people and you don't have that environment, I think it's necessary, and I had this conversation with a client the other day, but getting to the point where you're thinking, why do I even do this? Unpack that question. Think about your why. Think about why you lift weights. What made you get into this and fall in love with this in the first place? What drove you to do this? And even if you don't have gym equipment, you know, what you can do at home with limited equipment, dive into why you got into health and fitness if you want to get that broad scale with it. Dive into why you started to lift and try to unpack that, try to understand that. And then use that information to set yourself up for wins in training. Even if it's just small wins, even if you're only changing tiny little things to make your training sessions more fun so you don't have to use as much motivation to get to the gym, get into your session, to convince yourself to get up off the couch and do it. Whatever you need to unpack there, whatever you need to try to tease out as little wins, maybe change the movements, change the rep ranges, make some modifications to your training to make it more fun, get into it, do it, and hopefully we'll be back to normal before long. That's gonna be it. Lifter's Log signing off. Good luck out there in quarantine.